I didn't put sugar in this. Hi, there is a reason why I am actually showing my face in this video and why I look like somebody's auntie. It's because that for the better part of the last week, I have been fighting the worst bout of con crud I have ever had. And I don't know if you guys can hear it. You can probably hear it a little bit. I'm still kind of fighting it. I'm about at like 75%. I still have an ear infection. I'm just trying to spend as much time as I can recovering because my immune system is made of shrapnel. That's why I take all those 10,000 supplements to not get sick during con, because when I get sick, I get sick. And it caught me off guard because my husband's not sick. No one I roomed with is sick. They maybe got a little bit phlegmy, but it sidelined me completely. Now, for those of you who know and for those of you who don't, my name is TK, and today we're just kind of shooting the shit. I wanted to give you guys an update on where I've been, what I've been doing, because I know there was a bit of a lull there because of how badly I was struggling with the copyright strikes, my Skate the Infinity analysis video, and just kind of where I've been. And I want to talk specifically about DragonCon, one of my most favorite cons that I have ever been to for a number of reasons, and we'll cross that down the line. But I know you guys have noticed that I have been doing a lot of crafting and cosplaying streams. I might be getting back to the video game streams. However, I did want to give you guys a note that I will probably not be picking up Tales of Graces until the remake comes out. As much as I love streaming the PS3 version, it is very difficult because no matter what I do, it is so loud. Now, for those of you who've been watching my recent streams, specifically for my Rosalina, Legend from Linked Universe, and Peach cosplays, you guys know I am not a cosplayer per se. There is a part of me that would really love to get really serious about it. I recently got a sewing machine for Christmas, and so I really did promise myself, like, I am going to sit down and work on a cosplay. And then I inadvertently fucked myself. You guys know me by now. You guys know me. I usually start out with a great plan, and then when it comes to executing the plan, I start getting a little scatterbrained. I had a plan for Rosalina. I gave myself a month. I was going to have Rosalina done by August 20th. It was going to be complete. I bought the fabric. I thought I had all the fabric I needed, but then I realized that for the first pattern I chose, I didn't have enough fabric. So I went back to Joann's, found out that that fabric was discontinued until like October. So I had to buy different fabric. And then when I bought that different fabric, I started to realize the pattern I have isn't long enough. I will have to add too much shit to this dress to actually have it look good with the type of fabric that I chose. So I had to go and buy another pattern. And then I chose one that was Simplicity 1551. It was perfect, save for like a couple of caveats. One, that it was not made for the big old titty committee. Two, it was very, very long. And as I faced all these initial difficulties, I really had to sit down and think, like, would I still be able to accomplish all the goals I have for this cosplay without going insane? I wanted to make sure that A, some portion of my costume would light up. B, that I wanted a natural hair wig and I wanted that to light up. Be it dreads or an afro or something, but I wanted it to be sparkly. And then 3, I honestly just wanted to feel pretty and I wanted to get drunk in a pretty dress. That's it. So I switched up the pattern. It's this nice long elven dress with big dangly sleeves that I eventually shortened, although I still made them pretty long, and also I had to add a white ruffle to the outside. You guys didn't get to see that because I don't think I needed to film that disaster. That was hard, but I did eventually wear it to con, and it was a lot of fun. One of the things that I try to accomplish with cosplay, I always try to make sure that my cosplays have natural hair. You've seen it with my Legend cosplay, people have seen it with my Peach cosplay, and now with my Rosalina cosplay. For Rosalina, I chose an afro because I wanted her hair to look like a galaxy. Now, I don't think I necessarily accomplished that, but I did put a bunch of little like fairy lights and stars in it, and I got a lot of compliments on it. And to be honest, that wig was so thick, I did not even have to pin them. Satin is a very interesting fabric to work with. It probably wasn't the best thing for me to choose. It was just the closest thing I could choose. It was just the closest thing I had. I don't have any close-up shots of it, except, actually no, I do have one, where a couple couple of times I did have to sew it from the shiny side, and you could see all the pulls all around the hem. Next time, I will learn from my mistakes. Rosalina will have to be redone because her hem got destroyed absolutely during the con, and there are some stains from like people spilling on me that just won't come out. As a matter of fact, I spilled water all down the front of the dress. Granted, this particular satin is a synthetic fabric, so it did dry quickly. Now I did have to carry an entirely different bag throughout the rest of the con. Rosalina was a learning experience, first and foremost. When it comes down to it, sheer tenacity was really the only way I was able to finish Rosalina in a way that made me comfortable enough to wear the dress. There were a lot of issues I had, especially in the bust region. So I had to take the sleeves off, and then I had to cut the dress down around to my waist, then wear the dress, then measure how much space in between the back seam and the dress I needed, then cut out the triangles and then sew those in. And then you had to sew the sleeves back in, which I realized were too long, so I had to essentially cut new sleeves out of the old sleeves that I had, and then I realized that now that I made the armholes bigger, that the sleeves that I cut won't fit. What I should have done was make a corset back, make it something that I can tie and have the sleeves be the same size, but you know, there was not a day where I didn't go to bed thinking of how to fix the Rosalina Cosplay's newest problem. To be honest, the dress still had a lot of mistakes, but at the end of the day, I was really genuinely, truly proud of the work that I'd done. I do have this problem when I finish a project to start looking at all the mistakes that I've done and be like, I don't think that was really good enough. You know, you're your own worst critic, but when I look back, everyone really had the kindest things to say. There are people who could not tell that I was Rosalina, but they were still like, oh, let me take a picture of you. They kept calling me fairy godmother. They thought I was the fairy godmother from the Cinderella movie, even though she looks nothing like my Rosalina cosplay does, but I think they just saw the hair and that the hair lit up and they were like, pattern recognition! But it still felt really nice, and I am still really proud that I got it done. I made a promise to myself. I made a plan. I bucked the plan a little bit, but at the end of the day, I got that shit done. Legend, however, Legend might have been a bad idea. For all intents and purposes, Legend was a much simpler cosplay. But, like a lunatic, I decided to start Legend less than 2 weeks away from con. And I did it all with poly cotton broadcloth. Looking back, I absolutely should have just done pure cotton. It was only $2 more a yard. I really just should have buckled down and done it, but I was like, let me do this as cheap as possible. I don't want to spend more than 40 bucks. And to my credit, I didn't. But I definitely paid for it down the line. If you're familiar with Linked Universe, you know that Legend has two different parts of his main outfit. Is his overtunic, which is red and gold, and then you have his undertunic, which is a dark green. Now his undertunic does have a kilt, but I hate pleats. Look me in my eyes. I don't like pleats. So I used what was essentially a winter dress pattern that came down to my knees, and a tunic pattern that in hindsight was too long. And there was a shorter version of it, but that was too short because that only came up to like higher than mid-thigh, and that would have been too much. The problem is that this cosplay was not breathable. It was long sleeved, 2 layers, and those layers also had 2 layers because the overtunic was lined with yellow. There was a part of me that wanted to do it in velvet and gold lame so freaking bad, but then I looked at the price of the velvet per yard and I was like, hey, no. I did a red tunic with yellow lining and gold ribbon, and then a dark green sort of tunic, but it was more like a winter dress. The problem is, once again, the dress part was not made for the big old titty committee, so I had to wear a binder, but the binder was hurting my ribs, so instead I wore 2 bras, one being a sports bra. It was so difficult to breathe, I would have absolutely have passed out. The problem with using polycotton broadcloth is that it does not breathe. I should have just used regular cotton because cotton breathes. And the sleeves were a little tight, but I've got big shoulders because I'm a big girl. I was missing my shield because I didn't want to carry the big one I have on my wall, and it wasn't the right shield. So I just had the Master Sword. No one could really tell. Maybe about 5 people be like, oh my god, you're Legend! And I'm like, yeah, I am. Most people could not tell I was Link. There were a couple of people who were like, oh, you're Link from A Link to the Past! And I'm like, yep. Not as well received as Rosalina or Peach, but the reason why I think Legend was a bad idea is because of the fabric I chose. goes. When it comes right down to it, I really enjoyed wearing it. I loved the hell out of the photo shoot, especially when I got to reconnect with an old college friend. Sarah, if you're watching this, I love you and thank you so much for organizing that. It's great, and it was so wonderful to see you again. My buddy Sarah was Navi and ran the whole photo shoot perfectly. It was probably the most organized photo shoot that I had ever been to. I do have some criticisms for some of the other ones that I've been a part of in past years, but all the photo shoots this year seem to be run very tightly. A lot of people seem to have learned their lesson from 2022. But yeah, I think the reason why Legend was a mistake is because I did rush. One, the tunic needs to be shorter, different socks for the boots I was wearing. I just need a better breathable fabric. If the weather was cooler, I would have enjoyed the cosplay more. And then there's Princess Peach. I really enjoy wearing Princess Peach, even though she is not a cosplay that I made. I bought that Peach dress. Honestly, when I was still living in my apartment, I did sort of spruce her up a little bit. I tore some of the bottom lace and replaced it because it got kind of torn up. And to be honest, I absolutely do need to retire it. If I wear Peach again, it will have to be a cosplay that I make. I spruced up the lace, and I actually was going to use the afro wig that I used for Peach, but be honest, even after I washed it, it smelled funny. It smelled funny, and I didn't want to be smelling that smell all DragonCon, so I was like, why don't I just reuse my Rosalina wig? Honestly, best afro wig I've ever bought. Most afro wigs come off looking like a clown because it's made by people who don't understand how black hair works, but the wig I bought for Rosalina covered the back of my neck and went all the way to my forehead instead of just stopping here. So I really love it. The only problem was it was like 90 something degrees the whole time. There were some times where I just straight up took it off, but I had a lot of fun in Peach. The only real difference is I changed the petticoat to a much more flexible crinoline hoop. It was a little too fragile for me. It did allow me to like squish into the elevator. People do squish into elevators at DragonCon, but yeah, I really enjoy wearing Peach all the time. There was one other cosplay that was a mad dash to the finish line, and that was my husband's Volo cosplay. I am genuinely, truly, deeply impressed with how he managed to pull this off in such a short time, and it looked great. I might add, it looked fantastic. And honestly, it was made from like quilting fabric and broadcloth and cotton, and he managed to pull it off so well. We did have to use a little bit of vinyl for like Volo's patches. The cosplay itself was great, but I do not recommend doing a cosplay in 4 days. Getting these cosplays into DragonCon isn't as nearly hard as one might think. I don't really put my cosplays into garment bags, even though I really should. We honestly kind of put them in a bin, and we put like the props and wigs in a suitcase. If they need to be ironed, we can iron them separately. I always make sure, or at least I try to make sure, that my cosplays can be washed normally. They may not be able to be dried, but they can definitely be thrown in a washing machine. They can absolutely be ironed. DragonCon is known for being very busy. Diehards often get there like Thursday morning, maybe even Wednesday afternoon. We got there at about noon on Thursday. We usually spend con with the same 3 people every year, and it's always amazing. Even though Anime Weekend Atlanta was my first con, DragonCon is my home con. I am home when I'm there. It's a part of my family's history. Even though my husband and I aren't having any kids, we started dating there. He proposed to me there. And even before then, it was one of the few places that I felt truly, genuinely welcome as an individual. I don't know, there's just something kind of magical about it. From DragonCon TV to people watching at the Hilton, even to the crowds, there is just an irrevocable, no, irrevocable is not the right word, an indelible, haha, see, I'm on that SAT shit, mark that it is left on my very new family's history. Listen, I know that viral Wednesday night picture scared a lot of people, but the Marriott Marriott is always like that. There are ways to avoid the Marriott. I mean, if you never plan on going outside, which is totally possible at this con, yeah, you'll get overwhelmed by the crowds eventually. But there are ways to avoid it. You simply either need to go outside or maybe go to some of the events in the Westin. And I will say, though, for my part, that the vendor hall is like that because Amerimart sucks. Now, DragonCon is known for being crowded, but there are ways to get around it. I mean, this is an anime expo. It's run by people who actually know what they're doing. With that being said, DragonCon is crowded for a reason. It is a massive institution in downtown Atlanta, spanning several different hotels. The Skybridge hotels, the Hyatt Regency, the Hilton, and the Marriott Marquis, the hotel formerly known as the Sheraton, now the Cortland, and the Westin. All of these are like really big Atlanta hotels that are firmly all booked up almost for half a year just for this event. And it really is a sort of choose your own adventure type of vacation. Because of this, I say that DragonCon is not for someone who has never been to a convention before. If you are looking for a good first convention, do not go to DragonCon. There really is so much happening at once that unless you're built like the Energizer Bunny or can be in two places at once, you're not going to be able to do everything you want to do. And without that expectation, you're just going to be disappointed. You kind of have to go in with a plan. And if you've been in a convention, you kind of know what that plan has to be. Because unfortunately, just from the nature of how most conventions are set up, there will be lines to get in to do what you want to do. And sometimes those lines can be really, really long. And like any event, you can be cut off when the venue is full. So that is something you have to keep in mind. Just because it is a convention and you are waiting in line does not mean you will be able to get into the event that you want. My goal for this year's DragonCon was essentially to find my niche again. Before DragonCon bought MomoCon, which was incidentally the year I started dating my husband, the gaming track was a little bit different, and that was usually my main focus every year. Immediately beeline to the gaming track, I would play every fighting game I could get my hands on, I would have dinner, get drunk, then play Werewolf till 4 a.m., rinse and repeat. But the truth is, I am genuinely not extroverted enough to play Werewolf anymore. And while I really do love the free-to-play arcade at DragonCon, it's loud. It's really, really, really loud. And they do have a much wider variety of games to play, but not exactly in terms of fighting games anymore. I essentially just kind of drifted away from the gaming track after a while. Like, I'm still having fun, but what is my goal? So this year, I put on my Peach cosplay. People usually start rolling pretty hard on Sunday. I'm just gonna start handing out snacks. Usually on Sunday, that's when people start like fainting. Felt like it would be a nice gesture to go to the Hilton, lay out a bunch of snacks for people to just take at the swag and seek tables. That is probably the most fun I have had in a while at DragonCon. Once again, I always have fun. Most people go to DragonCon to talk to people that they don't normally see in their everyday life. A lot of people at DragonCon are very friendly and very accepting no matter what walk of life you come from. That is a positive energy that a lot of people are missing in their lives, especially these days, because, you know, negativity is king. I had wonderful conversations with Sakura Cosplay from Instagram, also known as Alexis, and another lovely conversation I had with a cosplayer named Bella, who is 6'8", statuesque. I tell you, she is gorgeous. I just had such a genuinely lovely time with these ladies. I got to meet so many like little lovely kitty cosplays, lots of little Musketeer Peaches, adorable. It was wonderful. And so I think my niche so far these days will be swag and seek. And let me show you that everything I got from the swag and seek tables just for my snacks alone. First off, I got all these ribbons. Some of these are genuinely my favorite, especially the Soros Prez. I got lots of stuff from Mario cosplayers. I saw Chuck, who is an incredibly kind man. Unfortunately, I had no bottles to share with him, just my fruit snacks. But yeah, I got more ribbons than I've ever done this year. I got a bunch of extra ribbons, like something from Hell of the Boss that I don't super understand. The only way to learn is by playing, the only way to win is by learning, and the only way to begin is by beginning. And then I got this, I made an educated wish. Got a bunch of stickers, like the DragonCon carpet sticker, which is if you go to DragonCon, you'll learn about the cult of the carpet. Some Mothman stickers from the Dancing Mothman. I handed someone a sleeve of cookies. They gave me a Sunnydale pendant. But what was probably the coolest thing I got, and someone crocheted a replica vintage Warren Reed bag. She literally threw it in my lap and ran away cackling. This is honestly the coolest shit I have ever seen. And I saw her maybe once or twice and I tried to thank her and she was like, cool, it's yours now. And I was like, thank you. And also the Mario coin coaster. Super honestly, just a bunch of wonderfully handmade items that people make throughout the year. This is all stuff that I will absolutely treasure. I'm thinking about putting it in a shadow box. I think Swag and Seek is definitely my niche this year, so expect to see a lot of streams where I'm putting that together. And one of the reasons I love going to DragonCon is just meeting the same people again. And you get to see them in various stages of their life, and I got to reconnect with a wonderful old friend. Special shout out to my roommates that we have every year, Shannon and Emily, and to our new friend Taylor. You guys make DragonCon wonderful every year. I don't know, I don't want to get emotional, but DragonCon really is a special time of year for us as a family. One of the reasons I made those cosplays is because I wanted to put in as much effort as I feel happiness during that time. And I still feel like I haven't done enough demonstrate how goddamn good it feels to be there. There were a lot of popular content creators and celebrities who were honestly just chilling out that year. My apologies to Jason Bear, who was at DragonCon and sat right next to us and like was having such like a friendly conversation with us, and we had no idea that he was a guy from Kawaka Fae. I feel so bad. I looked that man full in his face and said, yeah, I recognize about 80% of the fandoms here. Apparently he was a part of the 20% because I did not know who that man was. If you're seeing this, Mr. Bear, I'm sorry. I feel like if I give myself more time, making the cosplay will be a much more fun experience. But for now, I think I'm putting away my sewing needle until I have to take it out next week to make a baby blanket for my friend's son. Now for some official updates. While I do call him my husband, we are technically not exactly married yet, like there hasn't been a ceremony. We have finally chosen a date, which is November 15th of next year. One of my foremost goals is that everyone has a lot of fun. I am not making my own wedding dress, despite the way that people have suggested it now that I can sew. No. As far as content goes, I will be experimenting with a lot more short form content. So you'll see some videos pop up here and there about like random episodes that I found strange. Particularly one that I have in mind is the Overwatch episode of American Dad. Truly one of the most bizarre episodes of that show, and a show that is already incredibly bizarre. We're still keeping up with the video essays. We are going to be sparing with our reactions. I don't want to get punted into oblivion. Our next video is going to be a video about the Linked Universe. Then the next one is going to be Nerdy Prudes Must Die. November is going to be a lot of streams until we can pull off our December video essay, which is going to be a brief history, or a long history, as it's looking at right now, of fan fiction. You guys, especially the last month, have really come through giving me advice about how to deal with the copyright strike, how to upload shorts, and essentially warning me about TikTok and how unusable it's gotten over the last couple of months. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you for sticking around. And as always, you can find me on any piece of social media as per usual. Instagram, Tumblr, TikTok, well, maybe not TikTok, and Twitter. But as always, first and foremost, fuck Twitter. Once again, do no harm, take no shit, stay weird lovelies, and happy eating.